Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Mount Vernon City Council meeting to order for January 22nd, 2020. The time is now 7:02. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our city mission statement is that we provide professional and efficient services to create a lifetime positive difference for our community. Item C is our roll call of council members. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Beaton.
Here.
Councilmember Brocksmith.
Here.
Councilmember Cariz.
Here.
Councilmember Hudson.
Here.
Councilmember Holst.
Here.
Councilmember Moberg.
Here.
Councilmember Molinar.
Here.
Thank you. Under consent agenda, we have items A, B, C, and D. They are minutes, payroll checks, and claims.
I move for approval of our consent agenda.
A second.
Motion by Mary and a second by Iris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Under reports tonight, we have one committee report, the Finance and Parks and Enrichment Services Committee. Councilmember Mark Holt.
Good evening. The Parks and Enrichment Services and Finance Committee, along with some developmental services business, came to order at 6 o'clock this evening. Our first item of business was a discussion about House Bill 1406. This was a bill that was passed by the legislature, I believe it was last year, and it entitles the cities to apply, or any of the municipalities to apply for a 1/10 of 1% sales tax rebate. Those funds are dedicated to affordable housing. It's on our agenda this evening, and I believe council will move forward with a resolution. What we're allowed to do with these funds is fund existing or new construction for affordable housing. We can partner with other municipalities, county or a private nonprofit organization to help provide affordable housing. They have to be in order for the funds to be used, it has to service folks that are under 60% of the mean. So we'll be moving forward with that. No decision has been made as far as how those funds are going to be distributed or who we'll partner with. But we are going to move forward with passing the resolution. There's several other steps before we can even start collecting that. This is the first step, and then we'll figure out where those monies will be utilized. We did have some discussion about affordable housing. One of the things that we're going to be doing is an updated economic study from 2005. We're going to be looking at mixed use in some of our commercial zones and seeing if that makes economic sense along with practical common sense for housing. We had a discussion in regards to the partnership that we've got with the county right now. The county is looking at what their options are on the fairgrounds. So we're going to be working with them on a sub-area plan. That plan will the sub-area plan will be done from the south of Kincaid down to Blackburn and west of the railroad tracks to the river. It'll give us an idea of what kind of zoning or sub-area zoning we could do that will be beneficial to the community. We then had a discussion about a committee or council retreat. It's pretty much been settled on February 19th from 5 to 9 p.m. right here in the council chambers. We're going to have a council retreat. There's several items that we're going to be discussing, but and that's just more of a planning for the future. We then moved into our finance department. We had a discussion about our ballot measure costs. It's kind of shocking that the county charged in 2019 charged nearly $80,000 to the residents of Mount Vernon just for voter registration. That's quite a shocking number to see, and that's just a number that the auditor's office picks out. The cost to put measures on the ballot varies depending on what all is on the ballot. Last year, I believe it was about $43,000 for the billing for, actually, excuse me, that was from 18, it was about $43,000 that the city paid to the county for different elections. We haven't got our 2019 billings as of yet. Had a review of our revenue summaries. Everything is pretty much in order. Nothing's been finalized, but overall, we collected about 97.3% of our budgeted for our general fund. And our tax revenue, sales tax revenue, was about $200,000 more than what was budgeted. We then went into some parks discussions. Bill shared with us that shared with us that the parking lot at Little Mountain's kind of on hold right now. They ran into some weather situations. Those should pick up in about April again, and we'll should finalize that project in September, in the summer. Work continues on Little Mountain Trails and on Bakerview, continuing to do facility maintenances. And then we talked a little bit about what was going to go on in 2020, and there's a number of new projects that are being planned, not only in the parks but also in the programs. So there's lots of exciting things going to be taking place in the Parks Department. And we adjourned about 7 o'clock.
Thank you very much. Item B is our community comments. If there's anyone that'd like to make a comment, you're welcome to step to the podium at this time. And seeing none, we'll move along. And item C is any council member comments. Any council member comments?
I have a couple. First off, I wanted to say thank you to ESCO and his staff. I think that they did a very good job with our small little snowstorm last week. I heard some good feedback, and so I wanted to share that with you so that you could share it with your staff. I wanted to take a moment. It's not my intent to steal the mayor's parade, or the mayor's kudos, but she is now sponsoring, if you will, a Civic Saturday for the next 11 months. And I had the privilege of attending Saturday morning, and it was very heartwarming for me to see the number of people that turned out, the number of people that set aside their Saturday morning to come out and really get a better understanding of how our government in the city of Mount Vernon works at the county level and at the state level. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for seeing a need in the community, and to Peter and to Carrie, and there was a couple other staff members there as well that also took time out of their day. And I want to thank the folks that showed up. They were even community members from outside of the city, and so it was really neat to see. And thirdly, Mary and I are hosting a Ward 3 meeting on Monday evening, February 3rd at 5:30 at the Mount Vernon Fire Station 3. And we're hoping that maybe we could just get a tenth of the number of residents that, community members that showed up on Saturday.
Great.
So anyway, come on out. We'll have some coffee for you and some treats and just have a chat.
Great, thank you. Any other council member comments? All right, moving on to mayor's report. So just wanted to remind folks of a special and fun community event that's coming up Friday, January 31st. It's our 6th annual Illuminate Winter Walk. And the idea to have an event in January is because it's so dark and dreary and rainy and cold that we wanted to celebrate in a certain way. So we're celebrating art, light, community, and the Skagit ecosystem at the 6th annual Illuminate Winter Walk. So what this is folks take it upon themselves to maybe take a class or come down to Tri-D, one of our local businesses, or do this at home where you're making a luminary, and it's usually made out of paper, and then there's a light inserted and it glows, and it's just a beautiful thing to do, and it's pretty easy. So we want to invite folks out. There's also a procession, so we walk along the river with our luminaries. It's about a mile walk, and it's a really lovely time. It starts 3:30 to 5:15 is free paper bag at the moment luminaries at Tri-D, so we want to thank local business for that. From 5 to 5:30 there's live music at the River Walk Plaza, and then at 5:30 the walk begins along the Riverwalk Park Plaza. So we want to thank Councilmember Brocksmith and for helping with that with the Skagit Watershed Council as a prime sponsor. And so come on out and join us. We won't jinx anything because I'm going to knock on wood, but we've never been shut out for weather. It's always been a gorgeous, nice, cold, beautiful night. So please come join us for that.
We'll have the event, rain or shine.
Exactly.
But it should
Still
be
go.
shine, not rain.
A couple other things that are going on right now that really apply to the policymakers here, council and myself, as we are up here on the dais, is the Washington State Legislature is in session. It's a short session this year, so it began January 13. It's scheduled to adjourn on March 12. And a lot of people are surprised to realize that our state legislature is part-time. So they have part-time governance, and sometimes that is a good thing, I guess, or sometimes it's a detriment when they're trying to cram a lot of these really major policy decisions that affect each and every one of our lives in a very short amount of time. I wanted to point out, though, that anyone can kind of track the legislative work at leg.wa.gov. This slide has a big arrow that points down to the right side. That's where we track legislation. We track bills that have been proposed by legislators. So I encourage anyone to go on there and take a look at what our electeds are proposing. You can track the bill through committees, see what the movement is on those. We've had a lot of community interest in plastic bag bans. There is a state bill right now. It's a House bill. The number is 1205. And so if you're interested, you can track that and see. You can also comment on bills, whether you're pro or against, and let your legislators know your thoughts. So we really want people to be able to know that they can engage on the state level. Thank you, Councilmember Beaton, for the shout out on Civic Saturdays. We were thrilled with the 47 people that came to our first one. It was really lovely. Lots of great information was shared. And from that, we are looking into the idea of that we could we live stream these as well so that more people could attend. So we're looking into something like that. But our next Civic Saturday will be on February 8th. It will be themed under our Parks and Enrichment Services Department. It's at Hillcrest Lodge. There'll be some additional tours sort of after the discussion, and so we're excited to have our community count on our second Saturday of the month for the rest of the year and topics around civics here in Mount Vernon. We've also created a specific web page on our website. So if you go under the city website, mountvernon.gov, under Mayor, you'll find the Civic Saturdays page. And here we're going to upload any materials that might have been shared. So we've already uploaded some. We have a few more to put on there. The PowerPoint slides, some of the handouts, government rules and affordable housing, and things like that. You'll find the topics and dates. And so information will be added there as we go throughout the year. So we're excited about that. And that is the end of Mayor's report. All right. Item E is any committee agenda requests from council. Any committee agenda requests? All right. Seeing none, we'll move along. There is no unfinished business tonight. Under new business, item A is an appointment to the Mount Vernon Planning Commission, and our Development Services Director, Chris Phillips, will present. Chris.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Council. This evening, City staff recommends City Council authorize the Mayor to appoint Mr. Marco Morales as a Planning Commission member. Mr. Morales desires to be considered for an appointment to the Planning Commission to fulfill the final year of Planning Commissioner Shelley Acero. Mr. Morales has a diverse and impressive undergrad and master's advanced degree educational resume. His community service, coupled with employment as a Mount Vernon High School counselor, provides the needed diversity of perspective the Planning Commission requires. City staff strongly recommends City Council authorize the Mayor to appoint Mr. Marco Morales as a Planning Commissioner.
Any questions for Chris on this?
I would like to make a motion to authorize the mayor to approve to Mr. Morales as a member of the Planning Commission.
Second.
Motion by Iris, will give a second to Mark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're welcoming Mr. Morales tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and make it official. I'll ask him to come up to the podium. Oh, I need my pen. I state your name.
I, Mark Morales,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws
and the Constitution and laws
of the state of Washington
of the state of Washington
and the ordinances
and the ordinances
of the city of Mount Vernon,
of the city of Mount Vernon,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge
perform and discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Mount Vernon Planning Commission
of Mount Vernon County Commissioner
for the city of Mount Vernon,
for the city of Mount Vernon,
county of Skagit,
county of Skagit,
state of Washington,
state of Washington,
according to law,
according to law,
to the best of my ability and understanding.
to the best of my ability and respect.
I didn't know.
I want to thank Marco for being willing to serve. Not everyone's willing to put that time in, and so we're thrilled to have him. Thank you. All right, item B tonight is House Bill 1406, Affordable Housing Local Sales Tax Authorization. Again, Chris Phillips, our Development Services Director, is here.
Hi, thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm here before you to discuss the Affordable Housing Local Sales Tax Authorization. Just to briefly provide an overview, Skagit County passed a resolution of intent back in August of 2019. The state approved a local revenue sharing program as outlined in the bullets that are located below there. For the uses for that, again, as Councilmember Holst has discussed, acquiring or rehabilitating and constructing affordable housing is one option. Operations and maintenance of new affordable or supportive housing facilities. And lastly, for smaller cities, a rental assistance. The tax credit would be good for approximately 20 years. Does not increase our consumer sales tax and must serve persons of income that are 60% AMI or below. Cities can issue bonds to finance authorized projects. Again, what the city staff is recommending is that the council pass, it's highlighted in green here, a resolution of intent to levy tax credit by the 28th of January. And then we will be back to discuss at a variety of Development Services Committee, as Councilmember Holst alluded to, what we will do with those particular funds, and then adopt a qualifying local tax, which is optional. The last thing here is just that sales tax for housing and related services under this particular RCW, the city must adopt at least half of the authorized max rate of 0.1%, which is approximately $64,000. With that, we would request the city to approve, or the city council, I'm sorry, to approve the ordinance and pending any of your questions.
All right, any questions for Chris on this particular item?
It's a resolution, isn't it?
Correct, 972.
I'd move approval of Resolution 972.
Second.
Motion by Mark and a second by Gary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, next up is item C. Item C is a closed record public hearing regarding a preliminary plat approval for Eaglemont 3-C. And Rebecca Lowell from Development Services is here to present this particular item.
Thank you. And I am not seeing my, oh, there it is, sorry. Right in front of me. So thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. As the Mayor stated, the item I have before you this evening is a closed record hearing, which means that anyone who hasn't spoken at the prior hearing that was before the hearing examiner or submitted a letter into the record, you would need to have done those two things to be able to testify this evening. I do have a list of those folks, although looking in the audience, I don't think that's going to be an issue necessarily, but I always like to preface that when we are in a closed record setting. So in short, as staff, I'm here asking for your approval of a resolution that would provide preliminary plat approval for Eaglemont 3C. This is a 3.7 acre site. The underlying zoning is residential agricultural, which is interesting. The reason that, but then it has a PUD overlay, and that's what really drives the smaller lot sizes and allows the type of development that we see within Eaglemont. Years ago, when property was annexed into the city, that property would always come into the city with that residential agricultural zoning. That's why we have remnants of it throughout the city, just in case you're wondering. And this preliminary plat is going to be creating 18 single-family residential lots. Just to get you oriented as to where this site is in the city, it's at the far southeast corner of the city, near the southern portion of the overall Eaglemont development. You can see on the aerial map that I've displayed that north is towards the top of the screen, and I've identified Blackburn Road, Little Mountain Park, and the Eaglemont Clubhouse. And you can see the site that I've identified right here on the site. This piece of property sits on top of a bluff, and someday when the homes are built there, they will have a beautiful view. If you've seen the view from the clubhouse, these future lots would enjoy that as well. So just to zoom in to give you a better view of where this site is, you can see I've taken the zoomed out view and really just zoomed in here. You can see I've identified Eaglemont Drive that's running roughly north and south through the site, and I've identified the Eaglemont Clubhouse, and north again is towards the top of the screen, and you can see the site that sits roughly in this location. So I'm sure many of you have been up to the Eaglemont Clubhouse and can orient yourself as to where this is. So this is a copy of the plat map. I always like to do this just to point out some features that are important on this site. Again, you can see that there are 18 single-family lots that'll be created. The lots will range in size from close to 5,000 square feet to a little over 7,000 square feet in size. We have an approximate 900 lineal feet of public road that'll be constructed that will extend off of the existing Eaglemont Drive that you can see on the east side of the screen. That new road will consist of two 14-foot through lanes, landscaping, sidewalks. There will be no parking on one side of the road or within the cul-de-sac that you see as well. And then here on the northern and southern part of the site, you'll see that we have two different stormwater ponds or facilities. One of them's a vault, the one on the south side of the site, which they had to have two, which is a little unusual, but you have a break in the topography. So a portion of the site is draining to the north and east, and the other portion of the site is draining south, which is why they have two separate facilities there. So staff finds that the applicant has completed the procedural and substantive requirements for preliminary plat approval, including an open record public hearing before the city's hearing examiner that was held on December 18th of 2019. Staff notes that the hearing examiner recommended approval with conditions of the preliminary plat before council tonight. And as such, staff is also recommending approval of the Eaglemont 3C preliminary plat and ask council to make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign the resolution that was in the packets provided to you.
All right, any questions for Rebecca before we open the closed record public hearing? We'll go here to Mark first.
Hey, Rebecca, did you say that there's stormwater vaults there? Vaults?
There is a proposed vault that is located right here. The southern portion of the site drains eventually into the Carpenter system, and the northern portion of the site drains into the northern pond is up here, and it drains into the Nookachamp system. So we have that split in topography, which makes sense. That's why the two facilities are draining two different ways.
Well, the only reason I ask about it is we've talked about stormwater vaults before, but I don't think I've ever seen a project come forward with those in there before. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I've been seeing more site plans with vaults incorporated. I think as we see development, the price for real estate increase. There's a tendency to see vaults become more common because it does save real estate for developers, so.
Okay.
Great.
Melissa?
Rebecca, just for the folks that are at home, when I was reading through the packet, when Eaglemont was, with the master plan for Eaglemont and everything, we've always known that sooner or later Blackburn will punch through to WA. Can you kind of let folks know where we are on that, as it relates to this specific development?
Sure. So there is a very limited number of, we quantify them as trips, but those trips really equate to development on the ground. So for example, each one of these 18 lots is assigned one, what we call a PM peak hour trip. So in general, that's one traffic trip each one of those homes would make during our busiest times on our roads, which is between 4 and 6. That's how we measure those traffic impacts. So Eaglemont is able to develop these 18 lots, and then if they choose, and I say choose because as a city we can't make them do senior housing, but if they choose to, they would have a little bit of additional capacity to potentially do a handful of what they're calling stay-and-play units, which would be for those who may want to come and golf at the golf course and stay for maybe a little bit longer than somebody would in an ordinary hotel. So we will see potentially a little bit of additional development. So it'd be these 18 lots, possibly, I believe, up to maybe 12 additional units. And then that's it until the Blackburn Road is completed. So when Eaglemont was first developed, there was a number of traffic trips that were assigned, and at the cutoff point said, once you reach here, that road has to come in. So we've got this little margin of additional development that's possible that we're seeing right now, and then that road will need to go in before anything else happens.
Thank you. With that,
Thank you.
oh, go ahead, Mary.
Okay.
I had a question about the driveway, or for lack of a better word,
Sure.
road into this area.
Yep.
Currently, it is the road that leads into the clubhouse area? Is that, am I looking at that properly?
It's a little bit, hold on, let me get back to the aerial here. So it actually, so part of it, so this is the main, I guess you could come into the clubhouse either way here. But yes, this will be the road that's extended and goes into the cul-de-sac in this location.
Will that then become a city-owned piece of property?
It would, and it'll be improved such that it has the 2 14-foot lanes, the sidewalk on the north side of it, and the planting strips. And it was always intended to be that, just it was always been planned that way.
So it will still be an entrance to the clubhouse also? Am I
Potentially,
correct?
yeah, folks could still go either way.
That's always the way I go, so that's
Is it-
why
yeah.
I look at it as the
Sure.
entrance, so. Okay, I was just curious about the turning over of that to the city, just because there's still going to be people going to the clubhouse using that road.
Sure,
I was just
Would
thinking
take it- they
maintenance,
could.
et cetera.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Gary, did you have a question?
No, it was same as Melissa's
Okay.
answer.
All right. No other
With that,
questions?
I was just
Oh, no, we
gonna-
have to do the hearing.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm jumping the gun.
That's okay, I do that all the time. All right, with that, then we'll open the closed record hearing regarding this preliminary plat approval for Eaglemont 3-C. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this particular item? All right, seeing none, we'll close the closed record public hearing. Melissa, do you?
All right, now I'm going to make my motion. Council approve Resolution 973.
Second.
All right, motion by Melissa and a second by Mark. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Item D tonight is the approval of an agreement with Skagit Valley College, and our Assistant Fire Chief Brian Harris is here to present this particular item. Brian.
Hi, good evening, Council, Mayor Bedreau. Thank you for this opportunity to present to you a couple of contracts we have for you. The first of which will be a contract for internship, which will include EMT students of Skagit Valley College riding with the Mount Vernon Fire Department to gain clinical knowledge skills, which is required by the Washington Administrative Code. Right now, currently only the Cedar Woolley Fire Department is able to provide that service for them. Their county or the college is currently working with other local fire departments to get an agreement in place, just like ours. Ours is kind of the first one that's out there, but it'll allow their students to ride with our paramedic firefighters and EMTs and to gain that 50 hours of clinical experience that is required for them to complete their EMT training. This is also a great opportunity for us to continue our endeavor with joint training with the college and use of their training tower. So it's quite beneficial for them, it's beneficial for us as well. So we recommend that council approve the contract agreement that we have before you in order to begin that process. Do you have any questions?
All righty, any questions for Brian on this?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. I was trying to find the wording. Apologize.
I'll make a motion, we approve the contract.
Second.
All right, motion by Melissa and a second by Mary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Item E tonight is an approval of an agreement with Skagit County Department of Emergency Medical Services, and again, Assistant Fire Chief Brian Harris. Brent.
Yes, okay, so before you, this is actually a renewal contract. Council approved the contract probably the fourth quarter of 2017 when Skagit County EMS Department decided to, instead of providing ongoing continuation and education programs through their EMS office, we segregated that out in an agreement to where they developed training hubs. The training hubs were then divided into the county to provide training to adjacent fire districts. We agreed in our first contract with the county to perform that. It was done rather hastily with the previous director, and over the last year we identified some things that were missing that needed to be added to that contract, one of which was providing CPR AED training to local high schools. That also incurred a reimbursement for travel to and from to provide that training and some small things here and there. This new renewal contract codifies all of that. It's been vetted by our legal office, and both the county and the city have had a chance to look at the documentation that's there, and we recommend council approve the mayor to enter a contract to continue providing those services to our department personnel and those associated with our training hub.
All right, any questions for Brian on this particular item?
I'd move to approve the contract for services with Skagit EMS.
Thank you. Second. Motion by Gary and a second by Aaron. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Great, thank you very
Brian.
much.
Item F tonight is an approval of an agreement with Washington State Department of Transportation and for a Gulshan Trail Safety Lighting Project, if I'm getting the right order. Yes, okay. And our city engineer, Bill Bullock, is here. Bill.
Good evening, Council. Both of these, the next two items are really quite similar. That we have federal funding coming to us for two different projects. Gulshan Trail Lighting Projects is item F. And this is essentially to ask the mayor's approval to sign both the local agency agreement and prospectus WSDOT forms to allow WSDOT to obligate federal funding to both of these projects. Both projects are currently just in the preliminary engineering stage. And for this project, that's about $26,000 for preliminary engineering and $21,625 as federal funds, and the remainder is local match.
Great. Any questions for Bill on this particular item?
So I'd move the approval of the agreement with WSDOT for the Gulshan Trails Lighting Project.
Second. Motion by Mark. We'll give a second to Iris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item G tonight, it's the approval of an agreement with WSDOT, and again, Bill Bullock will present.
And again, this is also for a local agency agreement and prospectus for the Freeway Drive Improvements Project, which runs from Cameron Way to College Street, basically bringing the road to a complete street standard where we have sidewalk on the west side, bike lanes and travel lanes, as well as stormwater and I'll call it street lighting enhancements. We do have street lighting on the road, but we'll be basically doubling that street lighting since we're adding sidewalks to it. And again, this is to begin preliminary, to get the obligation of federal funds to begin preliminary engineering. And it's the same match ratio. So this would be about it will be $224,900 of federal funding for about $35,000 of local match.
All right, any questions for Bill on this?
I'd like to move that we ask the mayor to execute the agreement with WashDOT.
Second.
Motion by Mary and a second by Gary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And I think just a note for our community, we have a very high success record of getting federal funding in to do a lot of these transportation projects. So thank you to our public works staff that continues to bring those great grants forward. Item H tonight is the approval of agreement with Dike District 3. Our city attorney, Kevin Rogerson, is here to present.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. This too is a funding agreement, but not with a state or federal agency, but with your invaluable partner, Dike District 3. And those people who have the knowledge way back before the flood project was beyond a concept. Dike District 3 was there with us side by side, providing the city financial assistance to provide what people, if you can remember, the needed resources to remove a antiquated legacy railroad along that site where we now have parking, flood structures, and a plaza and a park. I believe ESCO was with us back then. I don't even know how long ago at this point it was. But all along, they have contributed through the 3 different phases, significant financial monies that the Dike districts from their revenues. And as part of those previous agreements, the city is to provide them at the end of the project completion a handoff of the property rights that would be considered flood elements. The city has been negotiating prior to receiving the letter of map revision with the Dike districts and their attorney very amicably on how we're going to achieve this somewhat complex handoff, because this project has both flood components, recreational components, parking components, and other issues that the city will need to reserve, not only on areas where we would own it in fee, but we would have to craft easements in which there would be shared uses on the same footprint. We have done basically as much as we can internally. This is going to require some survey work. You're going to need a licensed surveyor to draft the legal descriptions when the parties agree as to what footprints will be those flood elements that would eventually be conveyed by the proper instruments. In addition, the city has and continues to incur financial expenses prior to project completion. And the Dike District has quite graciously entertained the city's request for further funding. At this point, this agreement would be providing the city $100,000 in funds to be used by the city towards the completion of the downtown flood project and the cost that it currently is incurred. It is labeled interim agreement because we are negotiating for further revenues to be transferred from the Dike District prior to them having the property interest in the flood elements. So this agreement has been approved by Dike District 3. I have reviewed it, and I have no particular legal concerns with it, and we certainly can need and use the money.
All right, any questions for Kevin on this particular item?
Seems to me that Dike District 3 has been a good partner with us in this flood wall project. They've made a number of contributions towards the construction of that, and I think this is another example of the city being able to work with other government agencies, and I would move that we accept the $100,000 from Dike District 3.
Second.
Motion by Mark, will give a second to Melissa. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries, thank you. Dike District 3 has been an amazing partner, and so we really thank them for helping us out on that, so that's awesome. Thank you. Now, let's see, our next agenda item I, we had people traveling in from Cedar Woolley. So Peter, is there an ETA?
We don't have an ETA right now.
Okay. So we have a couple options, council. We do have an executive session plan, and the estimated time is about 35 minutes. So I don't know if that would work with community action.
I think that would be pretty close, yep.
Okay, so why don't we do that? So then what we'll do is,
Sorry, he's just arriving.
okay. How How about if we do this? We'll just take a quick recess for about 5 minutes and then re-adjourn back into session. So if that's all right with council. We'll take a recess at 7:41.
camera, Bill.
All right, we're going to call our city council meeting back into order. The time is now 7:47. All right, continuing with our agenda, item I is a community action impact report, and Peter Donovan will introduce and present the item.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Community Action of Skagit strives toward their mission of fostering and advocating for self-sufficiency among low-income people of Skagit County. Council gets an update annually from Community Action, and Executive Director from Community Action, Mr. Bill Henkel, is here tonight. Bill.
Good evening. Thank you for fitting me in, Mayor Boudreau, Mount Vernon council members, friends, neighbors, good folks. I will endeavor to be brief tonight, I promise. And if I'm not, throw something at me, please. Because we used to do a big PowerPoint, and I just remember the council just going, oh my goodness, okay, we're on the 57th slide. So now we have a one-page, two-sided handout, and I hope that that's received in the spirit of trying to be brief for a complicated organization. Main thing to say is thank you for your support and partnership. We certainly specifically want to thank you for the $58,000 on your Mount Vernon CDBG funds, which we use for crisis intervention and our front door for homelessness and people dealing with the housing crisis. And that is a big deal, so thank you very much for that. I also wanted to make sure from our community action perspective, thank you all for leaning in on your housing work and the development code and reg changes that were recently passed that are a big deal, and heard a lot of real positive feedback in the community about those. And sorry to arrive late from visiting with Cedro tonight, but I saw that you had on your agenda the $1,406 tonight. Thank you for attending to that and leaning into that. I'm just grateful that passed last year was something that we lobbied and advocated for in Olympia, and we trust that it will be a great tool for you all to help address the housing and homeless crisis, and stand ready to help in any way we can. The overview of the handout that is on the screen, and I believe in your packet, I've got some hard copies. I'm happy to share them with you and the tremendous audience behind me if you'd like. But if you've got a copy, I don't need to burden you with more paper. Just let me know. There's a list of services on the front side of that handout. And we do that just because we're a big, complicated organization, and not everyone even knows what the heck we do, other than we work with people who are in poverty and trying to get ahead. But there's a pretty good list in there. It's a summary list. There's a lot of complications and detail and sub-programs within each of those programs, but you can see for yourself everything we do, from behavioral health ombudsmanship, community engagement. We manage the Resource Center way up in Concrete. We do tons in education and employment, energy and home heating assistance, lots in housing. We work with veterans, senior and disabled services. We have the Skagit Food Distribution Center that works with all the food banks and helps support their work throughout the community. Volunteer lawyer program, and of course WIC, or Women, Infant, Children and Maternity Support Services. So that's a fair list of what we do. Our last year of reporting, 15,485 people were tracked in our database, unduplicated. And that means they had a deep enough of level of service to enter into our database. There are a lot of folks that wouldn't enter into the database, people who we provide a food box to or information and referral, folks touched through our AmeriCorps Vista partnerships, all of our volunteers, anyone who's provided civil legal assistance because of confidentiality. The people who work with our behavioral health ombuds program that helps them get their behavioral health support are not listed. We think that the real number is somewhere about twice that number in terms of lives touched, about 30,000. And that's somewhere between somewhere around 1 in 5 Skagit County residents is a good ballpark estimate, but 15,485 individuals tracked in our database. Just shy of 5,900 in our database were Mount Vernon residents. And with your Mount Vernon CDBG support, if you divide that by the number of residents served, it's about $10 per resident served that your support leverages. And we hope that that is considered a good return on your investment. That's what we would intend it to be. There's a smattering of impacts on the back, and I also wanted to make sure I know Chris and his team know about the Ryan Dowd training on March 25th. And I believe that some of you might have signed up already, and we hope you'll help spread the word. Ryan Dowd he runs the largest shelter in Chicago. And he got into this gig working with librarians who were experiencing a lot of people coming into libraries who were experiencing homelessness and weren't sure what to do. And you know what? The librarians loved him. He wrote a book. He got some fame, and now he travels around working with case managers, librarians, emergency response folks, law enforcement, baristas, businesses, and other people who come in contact with people experiencing homelessness. And if you ever want to read a great book about homelessness, believe it or not, The Librarian's Guide to Homelessness really is an eye-opener and very practical for understanding the experience of someone who is in that situation and how to best interact, and even to have to deal with behavior issues and the like in a way that can yield success. So we hope that day training on March 25th at the Swinomish will be well received and be of value for the people on your team and some of your cohorts. Please help spread the word. We can fit, I believe, 350, 400, somewhere in that range. And it's going pretty well so far. So I wanted to make sure you knew about that. A few highlights from this year, other than what's on that, is that we again had clean audits, and we are again in the green, and we pride ourselves on good financial management. Our board transitioned from a board of 18 members plus 18 alternates down to 12, with the idea of having a leaner, meaner, engaged board. And we are so grateful to Richard for stepping into board leadership as we step into board transformation to try to serve the community as well as we can. So thank you, Richard, for your leadership and service. It's been great. A few things that we've expanded recently, in addition to what I highlighted here, that we've worked with the county and now have an opioid outreach team. It's actually one person, Patty Bannister, and if you came to our Spirit of Hope, Chris did a great job of talking about Patty and her work. Thank you, Chris. She is amazing, and she's got this fleet of volunteers that go out in the street, often working with Aaron and other partners, and connects with people who are struggling with addictions and creates relationships of trust over time. And some of her stories are quite profound in terms of the people that she has gotten into treatment and into stability after decades, some of them dealing with addictions. It's really quite amazing. So we're proud to have that started. We're working more in supported housing and employment for people with behavioral health issues, and have a new Medicaid transportation contract for seniors and people with disabilities who need to get to medical appointments. So there's always stuff happening at Community Action, and we're always trying to grow and get better at what we do. I would say we're especially proud to have opened it last year Skagit Veterans Connect, in May in Burlington. And we are grateful for those of you who were cheerleaders for that and supported it, and for Robert and Becky Gates, who provided funding. And we're really seeing an uptick per month since that opened of veterans going there for it's not a formal VA center, it's an informal place with a collection of services where we hope local veterans can connect with each other and to support in services. And we're now averaging about 215 touches per month. So that's a pretty good pace. You likely know that we suspended our effort to move our entire shop over to where Skagit Vets Connect is. And like it or lump it, we're staying in Mount Vernon. We like it. I hope you don't lump it. But we're proud to be staying here, grateful that many of the donors that were trying to help us move to a larger space stayed with us. And right now, as Iris knows, we're right in the middle of construction. And we hope that it will go smoothly and will be done about May or June. And when we're done, we will have a ribbon cutting for that new facility, and we hope you can join us in this celebration. It's been a long haul, and we're really excited. Right now, we're all crammed in on top of each other. But if you've ever remodeled when you lived in your house and then tried to serve 30,000 people, 30,000 guests, that's kind of what's going on right now. But we're excited for what's coming because it will be more dignified and safe and confidential and better for kids. There's a separate area for kids when their parents are on site, and a more confidential reception area, and a lot of other improvements that we're excited about. The last thing I wanted to mention is, again, through Richard's support and leadership, we launched a housing development committee and are looking into ways we might be an add-on and part of the solution to building more housing that people can afford. And we certainly don't want to compete with the other wonderful folks out there. Our particular niche that we're looking at is, because we don't have a team that has expertise in housing development, is to begin by partnering with private developers for that sort of for-profit, nonprofit partnership, and probably look for social investors and donors to help, as opposed to some of the other state and federal funding streams, to try to get some projects going that can create some units that are of quality and that people can afford in this community. We are looking at one potential project in Burlington. We'll see if we can pencil that out. That might have a component of veterans housing in it. And we've got some other things popping and possibilities in other locations as well. I would just say that as you are looking, I know, creatively at solutions, we certainly want to stay in conversation with you and see how we might partner. Certainly when 1406 is in place, there may or may not be opportunities. We already know that the permanent supported housing project is coming, and we're great cheerleaders for that and don't want to get in the way of that. But we are certainly interested in addressing the missing middle that so desperately need housing they can afford. And we hope we can be part of the solution and continue to be good partners. And again, thank you for your public service. Thank you for giving me a few minutes tonight. If you have any questions, happy to give it a shot in answering them. And thank you again.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for Bill? Okay, great.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you for coming over from Cedar Woolley. Double duty tonight.
Yep, glad to be here.
All right, that concludes our regularly scheduled agenda items. I'll ask our city attorney if there is a need for an executive session this evening.
Yes, I'd invite the mayor and members of city council to enter into an executive session and discuss with legal counsel representing the city enforcement action, litigation, or potential litigation to which the city is or is likely to become a party when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in either adverse legal or adverse financial consequence to the city. 35 minutes now, final action.
All right, great. Thank you. Then we'll be adjourned into executive session at 8:02.